And good evening, everybody. Welcome to our live stream tonight. We're going to show off some of the world of Battlezoo. I'm very, very pleased and fortunate to have with me Stephen, who I think really is Battlezoo itself. Between him and uh, Mark Cipher as the sort of creative director, they've created a whole suite of really really cool modules. They were actually the first ones to hop in and create something for Pathfinder Second Edition for Foundry, and I've got that installed as well as pretty much everything else. The latest one that's wrapping up now is the Battlezoo Ancestries, the year of Ancestries, uh, Year of Monsters,
You're
and
monsters. That's fine.
and coming up will be the Year of Legends, which I'm pretty excited to see. So hopefully you can all see me out there, and hopefully the audio level's not too bad. I think I've got Mark's audio adjusted now, so just let us know if you can't hear anything.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, you look good. You sound good, and I see you got my books behind you.
Yeah, and I'll say that I was excited enough. All of these I've purchased myself. It's not like but they actually showed up last week, which is kind of exciting. I've been waiting for them for a while, but shipping to Canada is pretty much the worst thing in the world. It's kind of funny because
Yeah,
I'm closer to the warehouse than 90% of Americans, but it's hard to get across that border. We just guard
yeah.
it too well.
Going to Canada is like it's like in the top three worst place, not worst, but most difficult places to ship to from the United States because of the rules they have up there. It's actually a real pain, but I guess if you're Canadian, you're used to it at this point. So
Yeah,
nothing
I've
I
got
can
a
do.
whole wall of Paizo products that take forever to arrive. It's just too hard for me to have a post office box and drive down across the border, even though it's not that far away.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who get stuff delivered to Americans and then have them like ship it up there or bring it to them or stuff. It's crazy
Just because
because
it's so
everything
much
gets
easier.
yeah. Well, you have to ship everything twice. That's why it has to be shipped to Canada, and then Canada has to ship it to you. It can't go right to you. It has to go through. So sometimes actually, the real way to do it is like how Amazon and other ones they actually have warehouses in Canada, so it only has to be shipped once. But we're not Amazon or Walmart or Target, so we can't do that. So
So I
anyhow.
will say that Battlezoo has a ton of modules available for Foundry. There's the Dragon's Ancestries ones. There's the one that was a surprise hit, which was the Dungeon Ancestry, which Tikale was pretty good. Day of release, I think it was April Fool's Day. We had a module out ready to go. I think that's
Well, I actually, the story is real quick, and a lot of people have heard this, is that the day before April Fool's, I said to Mark, I was like, you know what? I have an idea. And it actually came from Ginny D because Ginny D was promoting Battlezoo Ancestry Dragons. And then as a stinger at the end of one of her videos, she said, hey, can I play a dungeon? And then I'm like, you know what? I bet you I can make a dungeon, or I bet you Mark could. I read a lot of fantasy, what's it called? I can't remember, but the fantasy like where you actually are like in a video game world. And so anyhow, he wrote a dungeon, and I laid it out. He wrote it in one day, and I laid it out that night, and then we got it out, and it was a massive hit. And then I spoke to the Ians, and I'm like, how quickly can you get this done? It's like April 1st. They're like, we're on it. And then they like got the ancestry done in like 2 hours. And then we're like, okay, throw it up. So we got it all done. So like that entire PDF, the ancestry, the Foundry module, all done within 24 hours. It was like ridiculous. So yeah, that was the beginning of the insanity, and then we kind of went from there. So, but yes, you can play a dungeon, and it works. And there's a JSON module if you want to put in the path builder, and then that gets used a lot. Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people play dungeons. So anyhow,
yeah. Then we've got the Year of Monsters, which is slowly wrapping up. Uh, and that's been a pretty cool module. I think it's the first one I've seen where sort of you buy the module and every month you get an update, and it comes along with the PDF, and then you're ready to go sort of right at the start, which is a really really cool way to start releasing things. So I'm excited to see how Year of Legends go. I mean, it's just neat to sort of all of a sudden update and then hey, I've got this whole new amount of content that's just sitting there waiting to go.
yeah, we. I mean, it was kind of my concept of like, because I'm I do software development for a living, and then I was like, you know what? Why don't we come up with one module, and then we just update it every month with a new ancestry. And I was talking to Nath and stuff, and they were just like, I don't know how much control I had over it, but they just said, just do a new version every month. And I mean, it took us a little while to figure out the model, but that's how it works. So every month, it started out with version 1, we're up to version 10 because it's the 10th month of the year. And then November 1st, Oni comes out, and you can play Oni, and then it updates automatically with everything from the PDF. So it has all the lore, it has obviously the ancestries in there. We give you 21 tokens that you can use, and we try to mix them up. We put in all the artwork, all the background, pretty much everything. They're about 6 to 8,000 words. It's about twice to three times larger than a Paizo ancestry, just to give you an idea. And then the ones we did are really weird. Like, we did a mimic, we did a doppelganger, we did demons. We did let's see, we just released Gremlins. The Doppelganger, people love the Doppelganger because it really works. Like, we didn't make it like, oh, you kind of like a Doppelganger and it's like a disguise. It's like, no, you're a Doppelganger. You're a mimic. You really mimic things. But since Mark Seifter actually, he wrote all of these, and, he did write or co-wrote Pathfinder, he understands the balance perfectly. So all these are balanced. And and to be honest, if anyone had any issues, we updated. And to be honest, I think there was like someone gave us one idea for something, we added it, and we added to the Foundry module, we added to the PDF, and it works. And the one that everyone's looking forward to, but I knew was coming out last, and that was Intelligent Weapons. And if you go there, you can see right now, right? So Intelligent Weapons just has the mystery, and then when you load it up the next month, everything gets filled in. So in the beginning of the year, it was all question marks of like what it looks like, and then by the end of the year, it's all filled in, and then you have all 12. And you could buy this at any time, and you'll get everything that's released up to this point. And right now on Battlezoo.com, you can get it as the Foundry module if you just want the Foundry. You can get it as PDF. You can get it as both. And we do it for 5e as well. So it's not just Pathfinder. We do this for everything. And then the 5e ones are written specifically for 5e, and they're long. Actually, the 5e ones are longer than the Pathfinder ones because we put in all the backgrounds as well. We put in, they're quite detailed. So, and we kind of modeled the 5e ancestries or 5e races off of Pathfinder ancestries because people who play 5e are like, races are 1 page. I'm like, yes, your races are 1 page. Our races are 15 pages. And we give a lot of background, a lot of lore, a lot of options, a lot of feats, a lot of backgrounds. So you can really like beef it up, and people really appreciate them. But anyhow,
Well,
Intelligent Weapons, you'll be able to play Intelligent Weapon in December. And Mark's been thinking about it all year. He still hasn't written it because it's the most complex one. But he's got to start writing it soon because we're running out of time. So we better hurry up.
I mean, this is literally one of the big draws for me that pulled from 5e to Pathfinder. It's just you get that amount of detail. It makes it a lot easier to get into the mindset of a character because I mean, anyone can just go and be a human fighter or a human rogue or an elf rogue. Like it's just okay, yeah, I know what that is, but you know, to be some of these without all of the hints, like how would you actually play a slime? What would it be like? And that you go into enough detail that someone could be like, okay, I could see how it could do this.
Yeah, slime is probably the most popular. I'd say that's probably the most popular one. I hear a lot of people play slime. A lot of people. It was also one of the earliest ones. A lot of people play. Everyone plays everything, to be honest, but um, people just love slimes, and I love oozes. It's like one of my favorite things. And again, this was an experiment. I mean, one of the things I like to do is really mix things up. And, it was like, well, what happens if we release one ancestry a month for a year and let's just see how it works? And, I don't know, even it actually came from the dungeons because we did that one so quick and it worked. And I was like, you know what if we did another one? And then I was like, hey, wait, why don't we do one every month and, just see how it works? And it worked real well. So the Year of Legends, which you can sign up for now if you go to YOL. Here, I'll just type it in. It's easier. Who did?
While you're popping that up, I
Yes.
think I will
Yeah.
just open up the two bestiaries. So the next ones are the
Oh
original
yeah,
Battlezoo bestiary, which was sort of the first out, and then the Strange and Unusual, which is from the past year.
yeah. So yeah, that was our very first. I think that was the first thing we ever developed.
It was because I remember there was a lot of discussion internally on the team.
Not really.
Oh yeah,
About
there was
what?
that it was coming, that there was going to be a Foundry module, and then I remember as soon as it was delivered, I think the next live stream I had it, and I was starting to pull out things like the Blood Mouse. We all thought the Blood Mouse was
Oh,
hilariously
people love the
awesome.
blood mouse. I know
Yeah.
people love that one. It's like the unofficial mascot until the Gamayan. But yeah, Year of Legends. Um, we did. First of all, now we know what we're doing. It's like, hey, instead of making it up as we go along, we actually have it like really systemized. And we did a lot of polling to figure out what people wanted. So the Year of Legends, we actually announced them all. We even announced the months. So if you go to that link, you could actually see everything that's coming,
Oh,
except for the secret 13th one, which I still haven't announced yet. But
so hilariously, you're not a moderator, so the it just came
yeah.
out as 3 stars.
Oh
But
well, okay, you can
Tikale,
link it. But
if you find it, can you post the Year of
it's
Legends link, please?
yeah, it's just year yol.rollforcombat.com. It's just Year of Legends, Roll for Combat. But we're doing Angels, we're doing Evil Eyes, which are totally not Beholders. They're something completely different. Sphinxes, Gargoyles,
Oh, that's a
Were Creatures, Lamias, Giants, Golems. So you could actually play Golem. Swarm Bloods. That one's cool. You play a swarm. We're actually doing the art for them right now. They're really neat. They're swarms within suits, so they wear like a skin suit, but inside they're really swarms, and they have special abilities to turn into swarms. Psychopomps, which people love, um, arboreals, but seraphages. The seraphage is they look like a mind flayer and they eat brains, but they're not mind flayers. So if you wanted to play a mind flayer and you wanted to play a beholder, but you can't play them because WotC owns them. But we have the off-brand versions, and you can just pretend they are what they are. So there you go.
Yeah. So then going back and looking at the bestiary, it's a crazy amount. It's all got art. It's all amazingly well done. Uh, I mean, when it comes to both monsters and art, I think that a GM can never have enough. It's very different in Pathfinder Second Edition. First of all, it's a little bit harder to sort of build a creature on the fly. I mean, you can do it, but to have everything just ready and to have just such variation that's so easy to find, and all of this is all built in with Pathfinder system. So if you want, you can turn on all the different bestiaries that you could possibly have, including the ones that are add-ons, and you could disable all the other ones if you really wanted to just search the sources, and you could literally just filter off of any possible type of creature, any size, any different traits, and it's just so simple to find something at or close to your level that you can pull out, and everything that's added in, especially in the strange and unique, feels just such a cool niche.
Yeah, I mean, these are part of RPG Superstar, so these are all voted on by both public and private professional judges. And I mean, I think the first one was really good, the Battlezoo Bestiary, but the Strange and Unusual, which first of all, we had a theme which was like really weird creatures. Like everyone who worked on it, and like even the developers were like, I really like the first one, but I hate to say the second one is even stronger. I was like, so they're both very good, and the second one's also bigger, the Strange and Unusual, and there's just as someone who's been playing D&D almost 50 years, I've seen it all. It's like you just need weird stuff that surprises you. That's why I came up with Strange and Unusual. I'm like, I need weird things. I need people to like actually look at these monsters, and monsters only are designed to live 3 to 5 rounds. So let's make it count and let's make it memorable. So let's like really put it out there. And also, my background, I started freelancing with Paizo making monsters. And for better for worse, they gave me a lot because I was good at it. So I couldn't break out of that. So I had to start my own company to make my own things. But I did a lot of. Oh, that's one of my favorites. If you click on that art, that one's like the art is insane on that. It's Goblin Circus Troupe. It's
I mean,
like,
you could just run into that in a town; it would be totally normal, and it is a threat.
oh, it's definitely a threat. It's yeah, the art alone, and I use pretty much the same artists. I mean, we have a really strong core now of artists, but we use the same artists at Paizo. Whether they use mine or they use theirs, it's actually not true. My main artist, the guy who actually did the cover for that one and for Strange and Unusual, he only works for me. He doesn't work for Paizo, and he's I'd say my best. I don't know my best, but he's one of my best artists. These are really hard to work on because coming up with the art order, I work with all the artists and do all the art direction. Like even that one, so the between, the one that you clicked on before, that's
Yep.
like a creature that exists in 4 dimensions. So how do you do a 4 dimensional creature? It's like, come on, like really? So it's hard. So,
It
but yeah,
is.
we figured it out. I mean, hopefully it works. The guy who wrote it loved it. So it's like, some of these are really tough because
I
you got to.
just love this because sometimes you just need a demon sheep.
Oh yeah, and you
This,
can use it for your own thing. You don't need to have. If you don't want a demon sheep and you just want a sheep, that's a demon. There you go. There is the sheep herder too, somewhere in there. I forgot what his name was. But yeah, that
all
one
right.
has, and then it also has the there he is, the demon shepherd. Same artist, same style. And these also has the monster parts system in, which almost gets buried by the lead. It's like that actually was my favorite part. And that could have been a book itself. That allows you to use your monsters and build your own gear from anything, and it works on any. You work on homebrew, it doesn't matter. It's in Foundry. Everyone asks if it's directly integrated into Foundry. It's not yet because of a limitation of Foundry because you can't you
It's
can't
something that we
itemize.
very much want to change. Like,
Yeah, you need to
it's
itemize items.
it's legacy code, and it's something that's really really tricky to do because you have to get
Yeah,
it right.
I
I mean,
know.
the closest we have right now is the way that we've implemented runes, and really, yeah, what we need is as soon as we can do items within items, because there's so
Yeah.
many things you could do. Like runes are an obvious one. Talismans would work fantastic as something that you
Hmm.
slap onto a thing, and then hey, you've now affixed it, and then when you burn it, it disappears, it deletes itself.
Right.
Um, but there's a whole host of things that could be done that way, and this was sort of the biggest one. And we're like, why doesn't this already exist in Pathfinder Second Edition? Because it's something that's perfect, like literally drag drop upgrade. That's
Yeah.
something that we would love. It's
Yeah. I
just
mean, it gets asked a lot, and we are on top of it. We're just like, because they are runes. I mean, the secret is, I'll tell you a secret, is the monster part system is just runes. We just have, there's just a lot more of them, but they actually use the exact same rules as the existing runes, if you look at it carefully. We just have, instead of having 2 or 3 fire runes using monster parts, you get 30 fire runes. And it uses the exact same math. And we actually even say that in the book. It's like, look, if you don't even want monster parts, you just want to have way more runes and start at level 2, we got it. Just use these. These will actually work as runes. But yeah, it needs to be. I don't know if that's yours module or Foundry needs to have where you can itemize items and sort of make them modulars. But once we
it's
do
one of
that,
those
we can
things
put it
where
in.
it's on the border between what the system should implement and what Foundry itself should implement. We try not to step on toes too heavily. The biggest one that we've done
Hmm.
is the rule element system compared to the built-in active effects, but it works a lot better for what we want to do. And
Yeah.
what we really need is a way that we need an element that would let us propagate an active effect or a rule element down. So you attach it, and then it
Yeah.
takes the rule element that's on the item and then applies it to whatever you've attached the item to. That's the mechanism that we need. That's what's hard to get right. Because right now all the runes are hard coded, and we do our best not to hard code thing because, as you sort of rightly pointed out, the second we start hard coding stuff, it means that it can't be extended by homebrew. And we've always tried to make it so that any GM can make anything they want. And the corollary with that is, any commercial entity should be able to do the exact same thing. Battlezoo and Roll for Combat being the best example of what's out there and how far we can sort of push those limits.
Yeah, it also sounds like that is so open to recursive nightmares.
That
That
that's why we don't have it implemented. It's just too
yeah,
dangerous in
it's
code.
very hard to do correctly. I mean, as a coder, I'm thinking it right now. I'm like, that is really dangerous. Actually, you know what? Actually, it's not true. What you do is if you make slots and do it like a. Actually, you can do that. If you do slots, because items do have only so many areas for runes, right? So you do it like
Except now
a.
you've hard coded it in a limitation. And the only ones that we want to do are for the actual system itself. When you say you can only do X,
I see.
because we had to code in exceptions for things like
Hmm.
Orichalcum that'll let you have an additional rune.
Well, there is +4 runes, and I mean you're right that you can go above, but it doesn't have to go above. Like you still can put a hard code of say 5, because no items are gonna have. I guess they could, but or you make it a variable. Well, you make it a variable, and then if they break the variable, then it's like, well, if it starts going to recursive hell, that's your problem. We've tested it up to 5, and past that, it's up to you. So if they put in 100 items that can be put inside an item, and they start breaking it, that's on them. So, but yeah, I mean, you kind of do it like what's that called? The paper doll model. So you have the paper doll, and then like, okay, this is where how many items you can put on an item, and those are the slots, and then it's not hard coded, but you do have a set number, and that can be changed through a variable. But then if it goes past the ones that you already tested for, you just put in the code like a note saying, "Hey, man, don't go above 5. Don't go by 3, whatever." It's like, or if
There
you
be
do, it's up,
dragons.
it's up on you, right? Right, exactly. It's like it's on you, baby. It's like we've tested it up to 3 or 4, and we know it works. But after that, you could start breaking things. So
So
I
why
feel
don't
like
we
I'm at
get to
work.
now that we've gone through all the other modules, this is the one that we sort of want to start with. So I haven't imported it yet, Clean World. So why don't we import part 1, Search for the Missing Map, from the Jewel of the Indigo Isles Adventure Path.
So
So
by
I
the
have
way,
it.
there's gonna be ton. This is all spoilers. So if you're playing this, don't watch it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, it's gonna be spoilers from now on. So
So first thing before we kick out everyone who doesn't want to be watching, I just want to point this out. So here's my copy of Kingmaker and the companion guide. And this is a Paizo level 1 to level 20 adventure. Compare it to, there's Jewel of the Indigo Isles, and this doesn't have the character guide. Uh, I don't know how to do this. Stand up, maybe. There we go. And so this is half the size. So that lets you know how much content you're actually getting. Because it's not like
it's
Kingmaker
too
was a little
much.
bit light on detail. Um, Unfortunately, I don't have a 5e book to sort of give the equivalent to. Because, I mean, already
Yeah.
my favorite feature of Paizo is that as a GM, I can just pick up and go. And it's just sort of all there. When we look at, so 5e, you get this tiny little thing, and most of it's like, great, you're now at level 2. Figure out how to get to level 3 on your own. That's not helpful. So yeah, I've always loved Paizo Adventure Pass for that. And this seems like it's just on steroids. Like Mark sort of said, it's just, there's this much more. Paizo does this, and then Roll for Combat goes to the next level and says, okay, well, we could describe it in that many words, but let's say we don't have a limit on page count, and that really matters. How much more can we describe? And so that's what you get.
Yeah, that was on me. Just give you an idea, the average adventure like module for Paizo, I think it's 38,000. I think it's 38,000 words. Um, and this one, so 3 adventures would be, we'll say 100,000 words for level 1 to level 10. That will be approximately 100,000 words. This is 250,000 words. And a lot of that's on me because when I wrote this and designed it, I've been, I'm a forever GM. I've probably GM'd well over 4,000 sessions at this point. I only do adventure paths. So I thought of everything I didn't like or wanted to change adventure paths. And the people who wrote it We have Patrick Rennie, who used to be in charge of the adventure paths at Paizo. We have Ron Lundeen, who also was in charge of adventure paths at Paizo. They were both in charge. They would switch off every 6 months. And Linda Zayas Palmer, who's in charge of all the society adventures for Pathfinder and Starfinder. So we have everyone who that's all they did is write adventures, and they wrote these adventures. And the funny thing is, would be in these meetings, and like one of the things we put in the adventure all over the place is what happens if the characters lose? Because in an adventure path, you really are kind of on a path. It's right there in the name. It's an adventure path. Okay, I like to call it the adventure roller coaster. It's not a path. You're having fun. You're on a roller coaster. It's a lot of fun, but you are kind of on a path. It's kind of linear, and that's what you signed up for because it's a story. But people die or you get off the path. How do you get them back on the path? And no one did that before, and we have them all over the book. And what do you know? I swear to God, Ron took it because that in the next couple of adventure paths at Paizo, it was in there too. And all these ideas we came up with, I saw them in the adventure paths, and I was like, Ron, you stole all my ideas. I don't know if I'm angry or happy, but thank you, I guess. So there's a lot in there that we came up with together, sort of. But we did a lot of things like that. Like we put in a lot of variable rules. We put in things you just don't normally see. We made it something that's very interesting, which happens a lot, is the adventure starts off really easy. And people actually write this in the Discord. They're like, I don't know, guys. It's like we're first level, and this thing looks really easy. Like it's not even a challenge. And we're like, don't worry, just wait. That's on purpose because adventure paths, what they normally do is at the very lowest levels, they will give you experience through doing like you've probably seen this a million times like oh there's a big competition and you'd like do fun and games and you go from level 1 to level 2. They try to make it very non-confrontational so you don't die at level 1 or level 2. They want you to at least get to level 3, and they do it through non-combative ways. So instead we're like, you know what, let's just put in combats. We're just gonna make them easy. We'll make easy combats. They'll have fun. It's supposed to be an adventure, and by the time they get to level 3 and then we're on the board, and if you go in the Discord channel, you're like, yeah, we all died. I'm like, all right, hey, everyone's dying. And I'm like, yeah, I told you it gets hard, and it gets pretty hard. It ramps up quickly, but that's not an accident. Like, and little things like that. Since we've done so many adventures, we knew how to pace it. We knew like how to mix it up. The best way I describe this is I've described it a million times. It's Guardians of the Galaxy, Indiana Jones, and Pixar. Yeah, it's literally that, and people have read it. Go, yeah, it's pretty much that's what it is. So I warned you.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of spoilers after this. This is like the basic intro, but soon.
So I mean, I've just sort of pushed a group through the start of Strength of Thousands, and I get exactly what you say. A lot of there because it's a school, and the idea is that the first level you always fail forward, and they have that, and I don't think that keeps going on. Uh, but they definitely had a lot of the skill challenges, and those were fun. But then they got in their first serious combat, forgot about the
Yeah.
whole concept of recall knowledge, and then just about died to a gremlin. Which now, if I would have allowed it,
Yeah.
that it's out, one of them could have been a gremlin, and it would have made that whole first chapter very interesting.
Yeah, as I said, it's one of the advantages of I've played a dozen adventure paths. I've done Age of Worms. I've done a lot of them, and this is all we play. So I've seen how they build them. I saw it, and we tried to mix it up and take the best of everything. And you know, this is the adventure itself, not even the module. And then the adventure, people are loving it because it is. It also starts out a lot of people will start these adventures and the first chapter, you're not like really doing anything. And maybe it doesn't even start to your level 2 or your level 3. In this one, it starts off you're meeting with the king and the queen and the prince and the princess, and they're like, okay, there's a map. We found half the map. We heard there's rumors there's another half of the map. Go find it. That's literally page 1. It's like page 1, you're going on an adventure. And we don't stop. Like there's no intro. I mean, you can do one if you want, and a lot of people have done like they met ahead of time or there was a lottery or they asked for a call for adventures and things like that. And it starts off right away. You're on a treasure hunt. And then from there, when you actually find the map, and that's chapter one is finding the map, and chapter two is you find it and you actually now have the map, and you have to now actually follow the map to get to the treasure, and that's the chapter two. And then chapter three is you find out where the map gets to, and then you have to go through um, a whole series of encounters and mystery and intrigue, and then you find out why was this hidden, what was the purpose of the map, why was this divided up, and then that actually wraps up like the first adventure is that you actually finish it, find the end of the treasure map, and find out there's something much bigger going on in this world, and then you have to go on a ship and go to other islands and continue the adventure and find the actual jewel of the Indigo Isle. So because they're like, what's the jewel of the Indigo Isle? It's like, well, that's what you're going to find out. So
Well, before everybody who wants to run away from spoilers runs away, I will let everyone know that for watching today, you now have the opportunity to purchase this old adventure path at a discount.
yep.
So I posted the link. It's a direct link. Apparently, adding in the extra enter keys didn't work out so well for me, but the
Nope.
link there will take you and automatically apply it for the Indigo Isles for Foundry module. Or if you just go to the battlezoo.com website and use the coupon code Jewel Discount, you'll get 10% off.
Yep, we'll have that for like the next week. So if anyone's interested in this insanely large, too big module, you can get it now for 10% off for a small amount of time. And we have Tickle in the chat. Tickle helped out with a fair amount of the module. I know what he wants to show off. He wants to
Yes,
show off
this one.
chapter, yeah, that one. So now we're into spoilers. So there actually is a scene where, and again, this is from Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. I kind of took it from there, but you jump into mine cars and you have to go through an active volcano while on mine cars, and you have to like avoid all these hazards. And then at one point, the bad guys catch up to you, and then you have a fight over a volcano on mine cars. What could possibly go wrong?
So anyone who wasn't quick enough to log off, sorry, but isn't that awesome? I actually remember when he was putting this all together. He sent me a copy of this video while I was at work, and I'm like, "What the heck is this from?" It's like it's from part 3 of the Jewel of the Indigo Islands. Like, that's got to be crazy.
Yeah, there's a non-animated one for people who don't want to like lose their lunch. So there's the static version too. Yeah, that one. So that way, if you don't want to like go crazy, but it was a fun little animation to add some, because we do have obviously like the lights and stuff like that. And I said, oh, it would be cool, and it's all layered. Like everything was layered in all the maps. So why not animate it? And one of the things you'll notice, so when we developed this, because the adventure was so massive, we did it in parts. So part one, part two, then part three. And I'm actually still updating the adventure. So now part one, two, and three are out. The adventure's been out for a couple weeks now. We're still fine tuning it. I'm actually redoing the layout a little because we came out with the World of Battlezoo, which came out last week, the book, which is the companion guide to this. That's like, if you want to know World of Battlezoo, Indigo Isles, everything you want to know about the Indigo Isles, and then some. It's 280 pages long. It's got it's got all the lore about all the areas of the Indigo Isles, all the major cities, all the areas, everything. And we're working on the module right now, and I kind of redid the layout, so I'm going to have the two layouts sort of mesh a little better right now. So
No, and I will say that one of the things that I really love is the style of the maps that you've gone with. Uh,
yeah, we used so Blando. He used to do maps for Paizo for a little while, but then he was let go because his maps were too stylized, believe it or not. But he does all the maps for. You've probably seen almost all these maps are in D&D and WotC because WotC uses him, and he does all the maps for Dragon Neck Dragon Quest. What are those dragon books? You guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Dragon Quest. Yeah, he does all their books. He does a lot of the maps for WotC, and he's really, really, really good. So the maps, in fact, that was the problem. It actually, people were like, "Where's the book? Where's the book? Where's the book?" It took a year and a half to do the maps, and there's a lot of maps, and there's like too many maps. I think it was something like, I don't know. It's like, all I know is we went from A to Z, and I ran out of letters, and I didn't know whether to go to AA or AB or AC if we were going to do like once we got past Z. So I just cheated and stopped putting letters in some of the maps. So it goes from A to Z, and then I stopped. So I'm like, some of the maps don't even have letters; we just have sections and areas. But yeah, the maps are crazy. The amount of detail he put on these things is
Oh no,
ridiculous.
they're gorgeous. I mean, I don't. It's not that I hate Paizo maps. I actually like them. They're really great to use. They're really quick. But the upscaled ones that they've made for Foundry and things like this, if you're going to have a digital product, you should have a map where you can really show off all of the capabilities and really let map makers explore. That's one of the things that I've loved working on Foundry, is because half of what we do, I really hope, enables content creators to make really cool content that takes advantage of that, whether it's Paizo or anyone else, because you can do things sort of with a VTT that you can't in a static setting. It doesn't work well, or it becomes really, really hard or onerous for the GM. And I think that a lot of stuff that happens in Foundry makes that easier. I think intelligent weapons might turn out to be one that works like that. The Animus that just came out in the playtest, I don't know how I'd do that in person. I feel like I'd have to have like 6 character sheets depending on which thing I choose at which time. Whereas in Foundry, it just kind of works. And
Yeah, I mean, we just came out with literally today, literally, is the Battlezoo Eldamon pre-release. It's fully playable. I think it's 84 pages. It's if people aren't familiar with it, Battlezoo Eldamon, you can play an Eldamon trainer, Pokemon trainer, but they're called Eldamon. They're Pokemon. You could also be an elemental avatar, which is like when like an avatar of the Airbender. It's an avatar. Anyhow, one of the things is you can have you can have like 6, 10, 20, 50 Eldamon, and you can swap them in and out. And when the way it works, if you're an Eldamon trainer, you phase out and they phase in and they fight for you. You actually, it's a super crazy pet class. You can definitely do it, you know, without Foundry. But I'm just gonna say that all the playtesting, a lot of the playtesting we had during the playtest, we had people writing modules. We actually have a module done, which they just did on their own. It allowed you to actually manage all your Eldamon and have them phase in, phase out, and fight for you because it's like a summoner on steroids. And you can definitely do it without it. And we made it so that there's these sheets and they're designed so you could just sort of put it on a card and you can take them out and use them. But it's going to be a heck of a lot easier on a digital tabletop than it is going to be in person because as you bring in and out Eldamon, you can just bring them in and out, and they're right there, and all the stats are there, all the abilities are there, everything's there. So I agree.
no, it's pretty crazy. I mean, a whole bunch of the classes. It's always just nice. It's great to have the path builder integration, because yeah, you can just swap things in and out. Uh, I don't. I still wouldn't use the importer. I like to build it all in Foundry myself, so that it takes advantage of it. But having them side by side, so having all of the roll for combat stuff, you're able to pull into Path Builder and then build it right in Foundry. It's just sort of like this thing that makes it easy to plan and then execute. And then with Foundry tracking all of the really weird stats or effects that you can have in weird circumstances, it's kind of neat when it just works, especially when you have a bonus against a certain type of creature, and then you haven't identified it, but all of a sudden, hey, your attack worked really well against them, like it should. So
Yeah, and this is a GM only map, by the way. This is actually not even shown to the players unless you want to. But this is the map that shows the different paths. This is once you actually finish the map, you have to go to all these different places, and we poor Remy. I was like, okay, I need you to give me a chart, and it's like from Rumplank to here, how many miles? Like, and he's like, oh my god, I'm gonna kill you. I'm like, well, You know how many times as a player, and sorry, as a GM, people are gonna say, "I want to go from Rumplank to the theater. How far is it? Now I want to go from Rumplank to the Toy Maker Tower, and then I'm gonna go to the Gasping Gipper, and then I'm gonna go to Jollicoe Town." Like I'm like, dude, you need to have this in there. You need to have a map because otherwise I'm sitting there figuring it out and doing the math and I'm slowing it down. So we literally have this here. There's also a grid in the journal that just has here to here and it's every cross connection. So you know exactly how long it takes. And because Pathfinder is one of those games, especially in the early levels, and the later levels it doesn't matter. But when you're level 2 or level 3, the time does matter because you will run out of spells, you will need to rest. Like, you know, if it takes 8 hours to get somewhere, you want to know it's going to take you 8 hours. So, you know, it's sort of abstracted as you get later. And then yeah, of course we have the different towns in here. And you can click on the maps too if you wanted to see like all the different areas to them. Um, oh, that's the secret cult. That's the cult. Shh, don't tell anyone about that one. But like, yeah, I'm redoing the headers a little. Like the fonts we use are the same fonts from the adventure, but they're a little clunky here, so I'm kind of redoing them. I'm gonna make them a little leaner because it's like I tried to make it look exactly like the adventure, but then after that we're like, you know what? Oh, and that's if we came up with there's a version of poker and it's called Poppy's Prize. You can play this. We had this heavily play tested. I'm a big poker player in real life, and this weird variation of poker. And this, I probably worked more on these rules than everything else in the book. Like I spent a lot of time, and we had a lot of people test this out. And I'm sure no one will end up using it. But if you ever want to play it, you can play it because there's a part of the book where you play poker because it's pirates, man. What else are you gonna do? Of course you're gonna play poker. So, and we came out with our own version of poker.
Awesome.
I
I
always like
always
that when people do that. By the way, that's a big thing I like when I see uh, made up games that really work. And back in first edition, there was a lot of them. You know, and I don't see that too often anymore.
I was running sort of a pre-adventure in Malevolence to teach Atropos, who makes Foundry, a little bit more about Pathfinder Second Edition. And so he ended up getting into a betting game with a goblin seagoing captain. And it's one of those where, you know, I did it because I knew he'd appreciate it. He has a PhD in economics, so he's big into statistics and math. And so I created this game, and I got him to get physical dice, and I got him to roll. And with limited information, you converge to a single solution. And that's what the Goblin Captain had predicted as a Goblin game of chance, which was no game of chance. And so he sat there for 5 minutes and picked it apart and then figured out exactly how it happened. And in character, did it back. And the Goblin Captain was impressed that he knew all about Goblin magic. So
Yeah,
it's nice when you can inject something like that. So when you have,
yeah,
you know, a game right there, it's just one of those things. When you have a little bit of downtime or a little flavor, it's better than, okay, you go to this town and go to this tavern. Oh well, what do I see? Oh, you see
yeah.
a bunch
Well,
of people over there playing a game.
we did both. Like it actually, and this is something else. We always give options. Like we're very big into variants because it's really from Mark because Mark wrote not just the rules, but he wrote a lot of variant rules. He wrote like the game master guide for Pathfinder, so he really likes to give people lots of options, like lots of options. So one of the things that we have in there is like, okay, if you want to do the game in character, here's how you do it. And we give all the rules. And it's like, but if you want to play it for real, here's how you do it too. And you can do either one, or you can mix and match because there's different rounds. You know, if it's too much for your players, you don't need to do it. And we even say like, okay, and it's actually only 4 players can play it. It's not for 5. It's not for 2. And we even explain like, well, if you can't go above 4, but if you go to 2 or 3, we even have like dummy players, so you can actually play with 2 people, and then there's 2 dummy players that like are sort of like AIs. And like I told you, we went crazy. Like, like normally people wouldn't even do that. They're like, okay, it's just in there, and this is how you play. Do some gambling and deception rolls and intimidation, and there you win or lose the game. We're like, now we're gonna spend hundreds of hours play testing this game and coming up with incredibly detailed rules so that you can do this from day one, and people have. And that's like the level of detail we have throughout this module. It's way too much. Um, I will say also the module gets really metal because it starts off. I always say it's like Frighteners. If anyone's seen the movie The Frighteners, it's one of my favorite movies. It's by Peter Jackson, and it's a weird movie, especially back then when it came out. It was like came out I think in like 98, I think, 97, somewhere around there. It starts off as a a comedy. The first act is all comedy. And then the second act is actually a mystery, like a drama mystery. And they're like, what the heck just happened? And then the third act is pure horror, like an actual real horror. And I remember watching it with my brother, and both he and I both, my brother's a costume designer in Hollywood. He's obviously really into movies, and so am I. And we're just like, oh my God, this is a masterpiece. I've never seen three genres mixed so crazy like that. This adventure, now I'm going to do some heavy spoilers, starts off and it's really fun, and you're like learning about this town, and everyone's so fun and it's cute, and then you go on this adventure, and then you find this like pirate's lair, and then you go on the second adventure, and then you find a farm, and everyone's dead, and they're like been turned into mush, and you're like they're being eaten alive, and you're like, what the heck just happened? Like, and then you go to an area where it's actually being taken over by alien beings that are so alien that no one can even comprehend what they're doing, and they wear skin suits of other NPCs to make them look like. Sorry, the NPCs are wearing skin suits of the aliens to make them look like the aliens, and then you have to fight in an organic dungeon where everything is organic, like the walls and the keys to the doors are organs. It's disgusting. And so it's on purpose because it's a trick by way Pixar does this. Have you ever noticed that Pixar always has really scary things in their movies, like out of nowhere? It because it forms very strong emotional bonds, and it like does permanent memories in your brain. So that's why we did that, because people will never forget. Like, wait a second, weren't we on this fun adventure? And now we're opening organs with entrails and fighting like these like creatures from another dimension. What is going on here? And it's like, yep. And then and then it shifts completely 160 or 180, and now you're like on an adventure through ancient. I can't even go into it, but like through like ancient ruins and exploring the history of everything and why this came to be. And then the very end, I won't even get into. The very end required us I think it's 40,000 words, just the last chapter, and it required a brand new system and mechanics. And if you want to show it, you can, but it's super heavy spoilers because this literally is the end of the game. So I don't want anyone to, if people are gonna see it, but it's the defense of Rumplank, that map. And I'm warning everyone, this is it. You'll get one chance. But for those of you who want to run this for your players, okay? It's a tower defense game. So the if anyone's seen the movie, was it? I think it's 12 Assassins, or is it a Throne of Blood? I basically based it off these movies, or Seven Samurai. Is you have to defend the town of Rumplank, and it's going to be invaded by thousands of undead and waves of enemies, and you have to build up. And there's a whole system. It's basically a whole system where you build up the defenses, and then after the defenses are built up, and you can put generals throughout the adventure that you meet. So it could be NPCs that you meet, and these NPCs you met from chapter one can now be your generals for each quadrant of the city. And then after you build up the defenses, and you literally build towers, you can build towers that attack air creatures, that defeat burrowing creatures, that defeat water, land, air, and you can go through it. This is actually given out to the players so they know. And then there's these waves, and the waves come through, and then you have to jump around the city and try to defend it from different attacks. And that's most of chapter 12. That's the end. And so it goes from this crazy adventure to pure horror to like finding out all this cool background to a entire tower defense mechanism that is really really cool, and it was heavily uh, written. It's completely unique. It's like it's literally a system built. Those are different towers you can build: quake towers, tectonic towers, wave towers. There's like systems, and you kept finding resources throughout the adventure, and the resources you find then can help you build the level two or level the more advanced towers. Like did you see that tier one, tier two towers? And this was something we really had to spend a lot of time with to figure out how to implement this within Foundry. I think it came out really great. Like you can click on any of the towers, the actors, and you'll see we have different icons for each one. You can click on that. So there's like an Inferno cannon, and then you can just drag that right onto the map. So if you build that, you just drag it onto the map, and I don't know if you build that or you drag. Yeah, you drag the
Yeah, I just closed it by accident.
yeah, you the journal entry. But if you close, yeah, if you do the journal entry, you could drag it onto the map, and then that's how you build it. And then we made it so that and this is obviously way easier. You could do this in person, but this is really easy on a VTT where it's like yeah, just drag it on and ta-da, you got a poison tower. And then you could zoom in, right? And then you can just put in different sections how many towers you want. And then the NPCs go in here too because the NPCs can help lead the charge of different areas.
That's kind of crazy. I never would have thought of doing a tower defense as a, but
Yeah.
it's cool and it works.
Oh yeah, it's this is nuts. This took months to figure out like how to do a tower defense system. And it's nothing flashy. Like we're essentially really thinking, but I'm like, it doesn't need to be flashy. We are talking before this. I like to, balance form and function. And it's like this is fine. In the end of the day, they just want to make it very clear so you can see where your defenses are. And then that thing on the left side, that's for the GM. That's the waves, and then they can bring out the cannon. They can bring out each wave and then have it attack the different quarters. And there's 5 different quarters. And then depending how well you do at the end, it doesn't really affect the game directly, but each quarter starts out with 100 hit points. You can see the hit points underneath each section. And then if they get through and they start damaging it, yeah, you can start taking down the hit points. And if it goes down to 0, then it's fallen and it's gone. So yeah, it starts falling. You're like, oh no, we're losing old run plank. 2 arms, 2 arms. You gotta like run over there and like defend it. I told you this is a crazy adventure. People just thought I was like, oh, we'll just go and it's like a normal. I'm like, no. You're gonna be doing things. You're on a roller coaster through a volcano. You're in a tower defense system. You're fighting aliens from another galaxy. I didn't even tell you there's an underwater. There's a temple underwater that you got to go through and then go through the top and then descend backwards through the temple to get to the bottom to get the last piece. And of course, when you finally get it, there's a skeleton dragon who has the ability to walk through walls and floors as if they weren't there. So you're like, so that's another part. You're like, oh, we got it. We run out. The dragon's too big to make it through the doors, and he literally will walk through the wall. And you're like, okay, we're in trouble. And you're at the bottom, and you're like hundreds of feet below the sea, and then you got to run back up through the dungeon while you're fighting this thing. And as it's breaking the walls down, more water is getting in, and it's flooding the temple. So
Seems like
yeah,
it reminds
it
me of the very
it
horrible Temple of Water from Zelda. Oh yeah, you just have to flip this switch and now everything's gone badly
yep,
for you.
yeah. It's very. I told you, it gets metal. It gets really metal by the end. They're like, oh my god, what is going on? But that's something else. We're very big into environmental fights and that's a good example of like for people who've seen and done everything, they're like, I've seen and done everything. It's like you haven't seen a dragon, you haven't seen an undead skeleton that literally walks through walls. And then if you go to another floor, it just bursts through the floor and just gets right there. It's like you can't get away from it. And so you can either run and try to get past it, or you can fight it. And if you try to fight it, it's just, but then you could also use strategically and like, wait, maybe we can fight the skeleton, but of course it's undead, so the water won't drown it, so that doesn't work. So you got to really figure that out. It's very strategic, and there's something else. We made sure these fights um, have multiple level. I mean, this is a boss fight. This is like the chapter 2 boss fight at the end of the chapter. We made sure it's not just you just fight a big boss. Big deal. It's like no. You're fighting a big boss underwater things are flooding. You can't suffocate it. It can walk through walls and ceilings. Go. It's like you have to figure out and contend with like 20 different things at once. And I believe that people, especially at that level, really like that. At that point you're like level 7, and so you really have a lot of tools. You can really do a lot of cool things. You have some powerful magic items, so you really want to be challenged by that. So, and
No,
I,
that's
I didn't
awesome.
even tell you. I didn't even tell you what the very end. The very end. You want to see the super end? The last of the last. So off in the distance. You see that? That is the behemoth. And you see that behemoth? That behemoth is undead. It's level 25. You're not fighting it. In fact, it's running. It's destroying the town. At the end, actually, go to the back. You can see. Go to the left to the tail. You fight on the behemoth. The fight is actually on the back while it's ramaging through town. So it's running through town, destroying everything, and then you have to fight on top of the obsidian shale beast and get to the head, where then you have a super duper. Actually, don't show that. Even that's like too much of a spoiler because
Okay.
no, that was a spoiler. You're spoiling it. At this point, it's too late. But yeah, you fight on top of it, and throughout it, the shale creatures. Yeah, the hide itself is a hazard. So like while you're trying to get through it, it's moving. So you have to constantly make rolls. So all the fights are on a moving creature that has sharp, as you can see, gems sticking out. So you have to like watch out for the treacherous hide hazard. I mean, this is the final event. This is level 10. This is literally the epic conclusion. But you're literally fighting on top of a dragon. Really, it's kind of a dragon. It's 500 feet long if you measure it. It's a huge map. But here's another example of like you can't really do this easily in person. I mean, how do you do a 500-foot map? But here it's like, it's Foundry. You could do it. It's 500-foot map, no
Yeah,
problem.
no problem.
Yeah. And what
Easy.
we did is we did this in sections. So if you did do this in person, there's the back section, the middle section, and then the front. So you can divide it up if you wanted to put it on an actual. You see that? You see there's like a wall. Yeah, you can see that kind of wall of gems that sort of divides up the areas. It also helps keep them within striking range because I don't want the NPCs to have it too easy. Because I'm
That's
like,
right.
oh, it just fly away. I'm like, yeah, well, this thing goes faster than you can fly. So see you later. It's like, okay, well, I just go 300 feet away or 500 feet away and fire a magic missile. I'm like, nope, wall of gems. You don't have line of sight. You gotta stay within the area. You gotta stay. That's a video game trick, by the way, because they do that all the time. It's called like the bounding area. So if anyone has any questions, feel free. Um,
Yeah, if anybody out there does have questions, now would be the time to post it. Otherwise, we've been on for a solid hour. And I feel
have
like
you
we've
watched
literally
my
only scratched the
streams?
surface.
I know. Have you watched my streams? An hour. That's called the warm up. That's called we're just getting started, baby. I can go. We go forever. Um, yeah. In fact, Tinkle is working on this right now. He's like, the stream is delaying me finishing the module. So if you see this, this is Gold Crop Island, and this is where you start off on. And then the World Guide, which just came out, all of these areas, all those towns, you see like Kraken and Mole Mist. We have art for all of them. We have NPCs. So if you even just want to run this, like all those areas like that, what the Emerald Hills are, the Tentacle River. Tentacle River is awesome, by the way. Each one of those mountains, like we have this all outlined, so you can run this. And because it's an island, because people are like, oh wait, it's based off kind of Hawaii, and you can just put it anywhere. So that's the beauty, is that we made this very purposeful, that it's an island chain, so you can just drop it into your world. You can put it into Galarian. It takes place right now in this Alakar is the name of our world, but it's designed to be self-contained, so you can just put this anywhere you want. And then even if you like, just like, oh, Kraken's a cool city, like we have this whole thing where it's sort of this city built on water with like this really cool boardwalk, and everyone lives on houseboats. And there's like one side which is like all the civilians and the residents, and the other side which is all the industry, and sort of like the two sides are separated by the river. And if you just like that, you could just drop it into your game. Like you could just take it, and we made it very modular, so you could just take it and throw it in your game. And Tico's working on it right now, so it's going to be very modular. So you can drop in your game, and the module's almost ready. So here's the book basically being the length of a 20th level AP while going to 10. How long do you expect the campaign to take relative to Paizo's 10 or 20 level AP? I will tell you, it's the same length because we get that question a lot. There's no difference. In fact, people are going through this pretty quickly, I found out. The reason it's longer is because we put in a lot more options and we put in a lot more background. So, for example, um, if you go to if you go to the maps and go to chapter 2 and go to the farmstead, I think. Go to no, sorry, not chapter 2. Go to oh, you didn't load that part.
I
You
can
didn't
go
load
grab it.
part 2.
Give me a sec.
That's all right. Yeah, we did them as separate parts because it took so long to implement this that we released it in different parts. And right now we're probably going to keep it separate because why not? Look how many maps there are. Way too many maps. So yeah, voyage, and then click on the first chapter.
Oops. I need to be in scenes, not journals.
Oh
But
yeah, you got to go in scenes. Yeah, it's up there somewhere, but it's easier. It's the farm. Yep, Ghosts of Seaview, Darius Farm in the middle. Oh, you missed a chapter.
oops. Chapter 5. There.
Chapter
Okay.
5.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
So
Lots of
like,
dead blood. Yep. Very nice.
yeah, that's a butter churner, and there's someone in it. So anyhow, if you go up, see that? Yeah, you like that? You like the butter churner? We have a lot of warnings in this module, by the way. So like little things like that upper farmhouse, like you've seen this a million times where they're just like, yeah, this room is this room is that, this room is this, and it's like two paragraphs. Sorry, two sentences or one sentence. We actually explain what each room is and why they're like this and why the kids are somewhere and who is there and how they, like we give a lot of background. And again, the GMs could ignore that or they can do what they want with that. Like we have read out loud text for every single area. See that okay, not the bedrooms, but like the master bedroom, and we go into extreme detail so that you have it. Um, and the reason is that I went into so much detail that we tried to make it that it's never be like, oh, the NPCs decided to do this instead. How do I handle it? Which happens all the time if you're running an adventure path. We don't need to give you the answers of how to do it, but we've given you so much background and why things are the way they are and what happened and why it happened that you can then use that when things go weird in your game. So it's going to take the same amount of time as a standard 1 to 10 level adventure. It will take no longer. It's just as the GM, you will feel like you're really embedded into this world and into this adventure. By the way, the number one thing I did is before we did this, because it's for 5e2 and working on the 5e module, is that every 5e module, if you go online and go to YouTube and you type in any 5e module and type in the review, there's 1,000 videos of like, this adventure is great. Here is the 50 things we had to change to make the adventure awesome. And that's a good one. And I was like, and you still see it even Pathfinder. It's like, oh, the adventure's good, but you got to change this, this, and this, or you got to fix this background. So I was like, okay, I don't want to have anyone. I don't want to see any of that. I don't want to see anyone having these like, oh, you got to fix this, you got to fix that. I was like, no, we're going to put in so much background, so much material, and so much information that you have everything you need. This is a full world plus an adventure, and you can just run it as is without having to fix it. And from everyone who's been playing it and everyone's on our Discord, they like it. They love it. They love that it's like it's all here. Like everything you need to know and then some is here. And quite frankly, as a GM, most GMs like to read these adventures as you would read a novel. Like you're reading it as an adventure, even if you never play it. Because the truth is, a lot of people buy adventures and never even run them. And it just is the truth. And they like to do it in their head, like how it would run. So this is so much you can read this as a book if you wanted to, and just pretend the NPCs were, you're the NPC, and that's something else we did. So There you go. That's a long answer for. We just put a lot more detail in there. So
Yeah, I'm definitely not guilty of buying things that I'll never have a chance to run and only have
of
a chance
course,
to read.
everyone does. Yeah. So any plans to translate your books into French, perhaps through a third party? So believe it or not, so the people who designed and helped and wrote this with me are all French, and actually, like half of my team is French, which is funny. I didn't realize there was so many. There's a lot of French. Like I'd say half my team and half my playtesters and proofreaders are all French, but it's 250,000 words. If someone wants to do it for free, I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to let you do it and help you all you want. But um, unfortunately, it's very expensive. It's very time consuming. It's a huge amount of effort, and right now, no. So there's not, at least me not doing it. But if anyone wants to try to start doing it, or starts wants to translate things, I will happily support you 100%. So for my
Um,
day job, we have to translate websites all the time. So we do that through like language files. We do it a little differently. But unfortunately, this is not really set up like that. It's not set up with like language files. So I mean, I could
one
have, but
question that we've
obviously
got
I
up
think.
there from the
Yeah.
book: do you have a favorite NPC? I know it's kind of like
Uh,
choosing a favorite child.
huh. That's a good question. Do I have a favorite NPC? Well, probably everyone's favorite if you go to chapter one, because he actually appears everywhere in this. If you go to part one, or go to the go to the journals, and just go to part one, edges of the map, you meet him right away. He's actually, I think, the first person you meet is if you go to uh, Glum Talons, the next section. Yeah, there. Scroll down a bit. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, I gotta fix that. He's fun, Dimitri, and Captain Nirgo. He's insane, and yeah, this guy's funny. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. There he is. Master Olo. Here, go back up. Master Olo. Master Olo is probably my favorite because he's a kung fu master pig. And you find him very early. He's actually one of the very first people you meet. It's your first fight is that you actually find him practicing with his pupils on the beach, and he sees you, and then he's like, "Oh, we should have some." And you learn the flying pig technique, which is actually pretty good. So if you're a monk, you can learn the flying pig technique from Master Olo, and he shows up like throughout the adventure. Yeah, the flying pig stance, the flying pig rush. So he's pretty funny. And then later, for those of you who are spoilers, you can hire him. Yeah, there he is. And then you can hire him, or not hire him, but you can then use him as an NPC as a general. I didn't even say that. Chapter 9 is a party. In fact, all of chapter 9 is a huge party. And there's a big party scene in the book, and you can go through and do all these like yeah, party and run plank. It goes all over the place. So you go from hard to having a big old party, and of course things go wrong.
What?
That's when
That would never happen.
yes,
You know, I'm
that's
waiting for
it.
the adventure path where you go and do something that's like, yeah, and turns out it worked out.
Well, you think it worked out. This actually is. It's yeah. Well, the thing is about this. Rumplank is a party town. Um, and they have parties. Like you actually, that's something else. You run into the glitter parade in the very beginning of the adventure, where they're just having a party of glitter just for fun, and it actually like then blinds you a little. It's like it's just for fun, you know. It's like but it sort of shows like there's a big party going on at all times, and there's all these different fun things you can do. Like there's a tall tale festival. There's the Poppy's Prize. If you click on Poppy's Prize, you actually go through. There's the Grand Parade. There's the rum run where you drink different, you get drunk and go through an obstacle course. And if you don't want, that's the rum suit. So if you don't want to get drunk, you can put on this rum suit, which will actually make you have the effects of alcohol. Like it has like goggles and like weights on it, so you're like all over the place. Um, But I will tell you something we do in this adventure, which again, this harks back to cool stuff. Is if you click on the event, I can't see the number. The next event, Divine Visitors, below
Oh,
this
then
one, the
16.
rum. So okay, so this world of Alucard has a family of gods. They're actually called the family. And they are balanced. For instance, there's the god of life and death, Ozone Zoa, and there's the gods of revelry and not revelry and restraint, and they are Abaddon and Castillo, which, by the way, are Abbott and Castillo. If you, that's where I took them from. These are my favorite NPCs. He's literally the god of partying, and this is like the biggest party of the year. So they show up. They literally show up, and you hang out with the gods because who doesn't want to do that in a freaking adventure? And here's the cool thing about the gods: the gods are gender fluid and appear as the ancestry you think they are. So the reason these look like humans, because there's no humans on our adventure, because we're human, so that's what they look like. So we see them as human. But if you're a Gamayan, they look like Gamayan. If you're Orpork, they look like Orpork. And if you want them, and if you think Amun is female, if you think Amun is a female hippopotamus, that's what he looks like. Sorry, that's what she looks like to you. 'Cause so that's how it works. I told you, but and in fact, the gods are part of the adventure. So again, that's all the stuff we just put in to make this like really fun. Lots of memorable scenes. Like who doesn't like it when you're freaking hanging out with gods? It's like, damn, man, it's very memorable. And then at the very end, you see him again. I'll leave it at that. That's sort of the climax, the ending of the adventure is where you hang out with the gods again.
Well, after having fun with the behemoth, why not?
So am I selling it? Do people think it's a cool adventure yet?
Oh, we already have one person who said that they're planning on running it as soon as Abomination Vault's finished. And for anyone else who's on the fence, like we announced a little bit earlier, I'll happily announce again that we do have a 10% discount available. If you want the direct link, if you want to go and buy this right now, there you go. Otherwise, the
Yep.
coupon code, if you are already on the site, just use the coupon code Jewel Discount.
Jewel discount. You get 10% off.
Is not a bad deal for this much
Yeah.
content. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's too much. People are like, oh, when are you doing the next one? We will probably never do a next one ever again because this almost killed me. No, seriously. And I've done some pretty crazy things in my life. And I mean, I literally was spending to cut because I did the layout of the book. So that book, and then I had to do it for 5e. So I had to lay out how many pages is that? I had to lay out 870 pages or something of content every night for like 6 months. Every day and night, that's all I did was layout. Like
It's
it just took
crazy.
so long, and then we had to proof it, and it took hundreds of rounds of proofing. And oh my god, it's so much work. And something else we did, and everyone told me not to do it, and I didn't listen to any of them. And boy, I was wrong. Because our adventure, okay, one of the reasons the Harry Potter books people like them so much is that they connect, and everyone I'm sure has read it. They connect, the first book with the second, the third, fourth. Like things that happen in the third and fourth book happen in the first book, and you're like, oh my god, like it blows your mind, especially because you thought I'm just reading some silly children's book. Like who would have thought the amount of detail that went into this, where it was like completely outlined and written ahead of time, and it's all connecting, and like little things like that really put it over the edge. This adventure is all connected. So things that happen in the first adventure happen and have consequences in the 10th adventure. It's like Baldur's Gate 3. Like it's all connected. The way Paizo writes their adventures is they're siloed so that each adventure can connect to a larger story, but they're siloed, so they're standalone. And that's to make sure people don't lose their minds because it's extremely hard to connect these things. And everyone told me not to do it, and I learned the hard way. They're 100% right because you're endlessly going back and rewriting the first and second part when you're like you write the first part, then you write the second part. You're like, crap, I got to rewrite parts of the first part to make it match the second part. and it's an adventure, so it's not that easy. It's not like a book. And then when we did the third part, we're like, ugh, and we had to rewrite the whole first and second part, so we couldn't even put it out. I couldn't even do the layout till every word and everything was done. I couldn't even design it or do anything until everything was done. So it was terrible. So if I ever do it again, I will not do that. But my pain is your pleasure. So now you have this one massive adventure where it just interconnects forever, and it just is. It goes from level 1 to 10, and things that happen in the first adventure have consequences in the 12th chapter. The first chapter and the 12th chapter are all connected. So don't do it. Don't
uh,
do it. That's
don't
warning
make
you.
your own, but definitely play this because I mean,
Oh yeah,
I will say as a GM and as a player, I love when that happens. And once in a while, when something pops up in a Paizo adventure and that happens, I'm like, I'm really glad that happened. And why
yeah.
doesn't it happen more often? And now we've heard exactly why it doesn't happen more often.
Oh, it's impossible. I mean, everyone told me, like everyone, they're like, don't do it. It's too hard. The closest they ever did do that, Iron Gods did that pretty well. Iron Gods, I think, is probably the best written adventure by Paizo. Except for actually, I take that back. Agents of Edgewatch is right up there. I know people rank Agents of Edgewatch low, but I disagree. I think it's actually probably
I
their best or second best
I
adventure.
played through it. I liked it. I had a hard time at the start because chapter one is just way too lethal in Agents of Edgewatch, and
It's
then
very hard. I rewrote it though. I rewrote it a little bit. That's how we fixed it, by the way.
and then the last book just feels kind of disconnected. I mean,
Mm,
I feel like along the way you sort of lose the cop feel to it, which is actually fine for the adventure because you're going to
mm,
suspend belief at some point.
mm,
But the last book, it was just sort of it it was it just didn't fit the rest of the story in my mind. However, I
hmm,
loved playing the last book because my character happened to be a neutral rogue, and
mm.
the artifact that you get, he had a lot of fun with that.
Well, we're only up to book 5, so they're now doing dirty deeds and killing people and loving it.
Ah,
So what I did is I gave them a badge, and the badge magically made all their damage non-lethal, and they could also use it to heal themselves. And Patrick Rennie designed it, and I showed him what I wrote up, and he's like, "Damn it!" I was like, why didn't we do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know. It's like it's such a simple solution because it's like, well, how do you like do non-lethal damage? You get -2. It's like it just works. Do you need to know how? Now it just works. It's designed so that cops can, if they need to subdue people, they can, and they don't kill them. They just knock them out, and it works. It just magically works, and it heals them. And then here's a major spoiler: you eventually are no longer cops, and now they're like, I used the badge because it healed. Like it's the same as lay on hands, and they're like, you don't have the badge anymore. They're like, oh damn it! It's like they got really dependent on that badge to like, oh, because you could touch the badge, and once per day it heals you, and it did a lot. It was like 50 hit points. So, and then when other people would die, they would do it. So that actually helped a lot. The other thing is, you look like you're fairly old. I'm definitely older. Everyone I played with are children of the 70s and 80s. And so we're like, the second adventure is the second adventure is basically Bloody Sunday. The third adventure is Assault on Precinct 19. Like we knew exactly what each one was. Like it's like, oh, this is literally taken from this movie from the 70s. They were all taken from genre 70 cop movies. So to us, it's that much layer. It's an extra layer of coolness because it's like, oh my god, this is so much fun. We're literally playing Bloody Sunday, which is us. There's a blimp that's going to crash into the Super Bowl 3, and they actually filmed it. If no one ever saw that movie, it actually. Oh no, sorry, Black Sunday. Is it Black Sunday or Bloody Sunday? I think it's Black Sunday. Um, you go in and there's a blimp that's going to crash into Super Bowl and kill everyone. And they filmed it during the Super Bowl, and it's pretty cool just as an archive piece. And if you remember, that adventure. They're going to blow up the stands and kill everyone at a grand finale of a game. I'm like, that's the movie. And I was like, you get to try it out, you get to play it. So for us, it's like that extra layer. Um, they just like it. They just also like playing good guys. To be honest, they like it was refreshing because they're always playing the bad guys, you know. But I'd say it after 15 levels of playing the good guys, they're having a lot of fun playing the bad guys. I'll tell you that. Like, and even that's like, oh, now we're the rogue cops, and we gotta like, be rogue, and they're like, but we're really secretly still good. It's, it's got that extra layer to it, and
Oh no, I definitely enjoyed it because
I
we went
loved it.
into the one hideout, and you're supposed to go and like as your test go and stab a guy, and they're like, oh, and we've hidden this we've hidden a weapon in the toilets, and you have to go and
Right.
find it. And I'm like, no, I don't. I've got my ring of discretion. I always use it. I'm like, I'm just gonna walk up and stab the guy.
Guess what? They did the exact same thing. He had, it's not the ring discretion. I forgot what he had, but it allows him to. I forgot what the magic, but you have it that it looks like you're wearing normal
Yeah,
clothing.
yeah.
Right. And that's exactly what they did. The exact same thing. It's like, nah, just take out my dagger and get stabbed him right in the back. And I was like, it's a ghoul. And they're like, oh,
Well, the
but
GM
even
was just
that,
like, the ghoul doesn't even look at you. He just starts. He keeps eating his soup. I'm like,
right.
are we done
And then you
here?
see the soup is actually fingers. In our mind, they were like, and I was like, they're actually fingers, and you don't realize because they didn't look like ghouls, and then they all turn into ghouls, and then I'm like, oh, that was a test. But even that, like, oh, the weapons in the bathroom behind the toilet, it's like, what's that from, like, The Godfather? It's like there's just a lot of callbacks to a lot of older movies, and I can see anyone who's probably not my age would be like, oh, this is stupid, it's cliche. But someone who like, sorry, someone who is my age who grew up with this, it's like it's endless movie tropes, and that's what that adventure is. And so for us, we love it. Um, and also, as someone who's been playing with the same people, I've been playing with these guys for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. Like, it was nice to play good guys, like really good guys. And they were like having a lot of fun with it. And the badge let them like take out people and then interrogate them afterwards. And they didn't have to kill everyone. And everyone was always arrested. They really enjoyed it. They liked that part a lot. So, anyhow,
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that adventure a lot.
The
But
GM was
yeah.
very good at the very start. He
Hmm.
replaced the one salve of anti paralysis because the one in the adventure would be useless. It's, the
Yeah.
first thing
Yep.
that happened was he didn't anticipate it, but yeah, 2 rounds, my character was petrified.
Yeah. It starts off pretty rough. But
But
my characters, I mean, these guys, we've been playing since the 70s. They like to play, I don't even say they play on hard mode. They play on Elden Ring mode. Like they play on super hard mode. Their characters, put it this way, they all took flaws on purpose. They don't get the free archetype. Like they actually break their characters because otherwise the game is too easy. they they're nuts, and yet they still destroy these rooms. They do drop a lot, I will say that, but they're very good at not dying. God, they've gone damn close though. I'll tell you that much though. But
yeah, Agents of Edgewatch was written that if you have a team that is very strategic, it's a lot of fun because if you think things through, even when they happen right away, or if you're really good at exploring things and picking things out, there's a lot of extra value I'll say you can get out of it. More
oh
than once,
yeah,
the GM was
yeah.
like, "Wait, you want to do what?" We're like, "Yeah, we want to do this thing." He's like, "Oh, there's one that's supposed to be like a insanely high level fight, and you need to go like there's the chains that go up, and there's this diamond that's sort of suspended up
I
there,
was
and I'm
gonna
like,
tell you about the ruby with the gem. How did you? It's okay. How did you do that? Because I'll tell you
so
how they did it.
so my character, so our sorcerer cast on the rogue fly, and so we put on fly and silence and um all of these spells, and at the time I don't know if I was master or legendary in thievery, and so literally just snuck in, flew up absolutely silent, and he's like, well, after this many rounds this is supposed to happen, but the thing has no idea that you're even there. And it took a lot because disabling that stupid thing, like I had maxed out everything and I still needed to roll an 18 or higher multiple times. But yeah,
So
at the end he was just sort of like, well, you guys got it. But at the very end, you make a little bit of noise and this thing pops up and then you close the door.
oh well, all right. So my guys, if you got it by the way, it closes the portal. So we did this, and this was just last session. So that's very fresh in my mind. So to give you a picture, There's a portal to the abyss, and the portal is 50 feet wide. And over the portal is 4 gold chains in a pyramid shape holding a ruby. The ruby is worth 4,000 gold pieces, and the gold chains are worth 2,000 gold pieces. And they cleared the entire dungeon. And I told them they cleared it. And I'm like, you don't need to go in this room. And they're like, we need to go in this room. And then they saw it. I'm like, all right. And they got a perfect, they rolled 20s on like all their checks. So I said, okay, here's the deal. This is a portal to the abyss, and this gem is holding up the portal to the abyss. But you can see, because everyone's legendary at this point, you can see there's little runes on the gem. And if you go up there and you scratch off those runes, it will close the portal. And they're like, huh. And then I said, oh, and by the way, while you're waiting, because it's 3 rounds, a demon from hell appears under the portal. Roll for initiative. We roll for initiative or roll for combat. We don't do roll for initiative. We do roll for combat. Roll for combat. And it goes monk, thief, demon, and then sorcerer, investigator. So the monk's like, okay, I run up the chain, and I'm like, fine. I mean, it's a taut chain. He could do that. So he runs up, and no problem, legendary. And then he runs up and even jumps over to the other side. And he actually is also master thief. So he's like, okay, I try to rub it out, the thing, and he failed. And it's like, oh no. And it's like, okay, you're all done. Or I think he rubbed one out, but he didn't get them all. It was like still 2 more that need to be done. And then I was like, okay, what do you do? The thief. He's like, all right, I run up too. And he runs up. And of course, acrobatics rolls like a natural 20. He runs all the way up to the chain. He gets up there. And I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rub it out. I'm like, you realize there's a demon from hell right below you. Like it's just level 19. You're level 15. This thing is level 19. And if you fall in, you go to the abyss. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, how am I going to run this in the abyss? Like, I'm going to find some maps. I'm like, oh man, I'm like literally thinking how we're going to do this because they're going to fall in and I'm going to start running this damn game in the abyss. He runs up there. He tries to rub out the gem. He fails. He's like, hero point. I'm like, okay. He rolls the hero point. Natural 20. I'm like, oh my god. You close the portal and the demon's like reaching up and they're gonna grab you, and then whoop, it disappears and it goes in and they fall in. And then it goes back to the saucer and the investigator. I'm like, what do you guys do? And they're like, we just clap. It's like we just do a clap because that was crazy. And yeah, they got it.
Well,
But yeah, that adventure is so freaking good because things like that, and that's a good example of like that was totally not that was totally optional. But never underestimate characters' greed because they saw that like that's a 6,000 gold pieces worth of stuff. Oh, we're taking that. I was like, you don't need to. It's like, oh, we're taking it. It's like just a level 19 demon who's going to kill you in 1 round and pull you into the abyss of hell. It's like, don't care. We're doing it. I see a question is, will there be updates to the adventure once the remaster comes out? Here's the good news. Yes, we're updating everything when the remaster comes out. This will need little to no updates because there is no there's nothing that's really going to affect us directly because the remaster mostly has to do with classes and spells. So things like having the alignment for the monsters, that's optional. So I'm not going to take those out. Like, yes, monsters from now on don't have that, but there's no reason why you need to not keep it in there because some people like it. So I'm not going to be changing the Battlezoo bestiaries to remove alignment. Um, Things like changing languages or changing things from what was it like chaos and like law and
yeah,
is
chaotic
not
and
law.
lawful.
Yeah, chaotic and lawful. I think are changing. I think I forgot exactly what they're changing. Like we might change some of that. We might change some of the languages. We might change some of the like the good and evil. But that's a big maybe right now. I mean, I'll be honest. I want to see how you do it in your Foundry module and see how
The
you handle it.
Some of it we've already like languages have changed. We have our
Right.
hands tied a little bit in that Anything that's OGL has to stay OGL.
Right.
So NPCs that are old will keep Sylvan, but anything that's new or any reference to it will become Fey. Already,
Oh, that's
everywhere in the
interesting.
module, off guard's been replaced, has replaced flat-footed, for instance. We
Right.
just did it because all we did was change the language file. So wherever it said flat-footed, we just replaced that key with off guard, and we were
Got
done.
it. Yeah, we're probably not going to do. We're not going to have to do much in our modules. The only module we'll have to do it a fair amount in is the Eldamon module and the Eldamon book, which is why we've actually delayed it because once the remaster came out, it gave us more time to play test, and people were really chomping on the bit because they wanted it. But I was like, well, these are incredibly complex and detailed. We're literally putting out a 300-page book for 2 classes, so I can't do this twice. So luckily, we came out with the pre-release yesterday, and the remaster comes out next month. So then we can come out, and we won't have to put out 2 books. So it'll just be 1 book, and that'll be the remaster book, and that's it. And for 5e, you don't have to worry about that, sort of. Actually, it's not true. We got to worry about next year. Well, I don't know what they're doing, and I don't even think they know what they're doing, so I'm not worrying about 5e right now. So there you go.
Yeah, we've had a community project ongoing, starting to dig into things that are being invalidated by the remaster, so that we can segregate it off. And honestly, as a development team, we're still trying to figure out how we're going to handle everything because uh,
Yeah.
we have really weird constraints because Paizo's decided that some things, if it's OGL, it can't be mixed, but other things like Kineticist, oh well, that's remaster, so it's fine. Like, but it's still released under OGL, so the lines for what's okay to be in, what's not, what needs to change. I think that we've definitely caused them to have to think about the direction they're going because we've started asking questions early, and they're like, oh well, we don't know, and the particular question got asked, and the answer was different from the two people who are deciding, what stays, what goes, what can be mixed. One person said hard no, the other person said, of course we can still use that. So it's a lot of digging apart.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in the same boat, but luckily, there's a lot less changing than you think in the sense that if you look at the overall picture, it's probably like well, I don't know if it's 1%, but I put it this way: if you looked at the 2 books and put them one next to each other, I think it's probably going to only be like 1 or 2%. But it's 1 or 2% that does occur all over the place. So it seems like a bigger change than it really is. Um, it's like they're changing a lot of core names and a lot of core concepts. So it seems like it's a very big change to the system, but the game is still the same game. And as I said, it's like okay, they're taking an alignment and they're taking alignments in monsters. Well, it doesn't really
Okay.
affect anything really directly too much. So
No, it sort of hurts champions because they're sort of built around that, but other than that,
yeah,
like good and evil become holy and unholy, well there you go, and it gives them a chance to
yeah.
break out, kill some of the golden cows that go along with the champion
Mm.
concept or the paladin concept
Actually,
across TTRPGs. I
the
think
thing
that
that got changed a lot is the name. Some of the monsters were just removed
yeah,
completely.
some of them are gone because they're just too OGL.
Yeah,
Other ones,
yeah,
they it looks like they've taken the opportunity to just axe some things that just didn't work well with the system. I don't know what I'll say more because I don't know that it's necessarily
yeah, yeah,
public what
yeah,
they're doing, but
yeah.
uh, yeah, I think that the community, I don't know that it was presented well to the community as a whole because there was a lot of controversy when it first came out and people had questions and they weren't getting answers. And now some blog posts are starting up, but uh,
Well,
I
I think.
definitely think it could have been handled a little bit better for sure.
Hey, I'm the one who broke the news with Eric. I tried to do it as we tried to get ahead of it. Actually, that was the thing. I worked with Eric to have him on my show. So when we talked about it, I wanted to be in front of it and present it so people weren't like blindsided by it. And we answered a lot of questions during that stream, but at the time, obviously, we couldn't talk about it very much because they were still developing it at that time because that was during Gamma, so they didn't even finish it. So even they didn't have all the answers. So
Yeah, I don't think people realize both that and, well, Starfinder Second Edition was a little bit later, but by the time it became public, it had been thought about for quite a while.
yeah, I mean, during the whole OGL thing, I mean, I was talking to Eric like nightly, and I mean, I was really talking to a lot of people nightly, but Eric and I were talking a lot, and they were like, yeah, we gotta just. They've been wanting to do a clean break for a long time, and the OGL just said, yeah, we can't even have anything to do with D&D anymore. Like we just have to be our own system and just come up with our own identity. And that's why they did this, because it's like, probably nothing will ever happen again, but you never know, and anything can happen. So you just want to, and they already were like 98% separated from from D&D to begin with Pathfinder. So why not do the whole thing? So
Yeah, I think that's it with second edition. They just had to do small tweaks. With Starfinder, it's still a lot more coupled, and with Pathfinder first edition, well, I mean, it just is what it is. So they've been going that direction in a while, and I guess this kind of forced the issue, but I'm
the
kind of
Starfinder
glad that
thing
it's done.
was genius. I didn't even know they were doing that. That took me by surprise. I only learned about that a few weeks before it was announced. And then we did me and Eric and Thirsty sat down at Gen Con and discussed it. But Pathfinder is so modular and the system works so freaking well, you can reskin it. I was like, you're just reskinning it for Starfinder. Well, of course you can do that. You can reskin it for anything because the system is really well done. And I mean, obviously I work with Mark every day and he wrote most of it. It's like it's designed to be modular. I think that's why so many people like Foundry who like Pathfinder, because Pathfinder is extremely modular and almost written like a computer program in a lot of ways. And Foundry is extremely modular and is a computer program. And the two sort of are like chocolate and peanut butter. They work really well together. And I think that's why you have so many Pathfinder people who use Foundry, because I think people already think like that when they're playing Pathfinder. And then it's very easy for them to move into Foundry because they're like, oh, it's like the same system. It's just like the VTT for Pathfinder. It's extremely modular. So
It was a really lucky coincidence. The whole project started at the start of the pandemic, right when Foundry released, and right when Pathfinder Second Edition really had just come out, and you had a dedicated community of people. It just, literally, it was lightning striking, and it just all worked out. Foundry created this amazing platform that let you build in that modularity. Pathfinder, I'll say the rules are close enough that you can try and put most of it into a computer. I know that a couple of people at Paizo still say that, our job is to make you struggle at your job. I'm like, I'm a volunteer. I don't need the struggle. And they'll do crazy things. Some stuff we just can't do yet, like Andrew White's insane character or creature that if you have dark vision and it's dark, you can't see it. Okay, I mean, we can probably figure out how to do that, but that's a lot of coding for one little tiny thing.
yeah.
That being said, if
So
it does matter to someone, it's a volunteer project. Someone can code in that feature and submit it, get it reviewed, and use it.
so Gridstop said, I noticed there's tons of scenes in the module, but not much talk about the maps on the Foundry or Battlezoo website. So yeah, the problem with the maps, it's like I love the maps, but every single one is a is a
Spoiler.
spoiler. So I don't know how to handle that. I mean, if anyone has any ideas, I'd be happy to do that. I mean, maybe I guess I could. It's really tough to do. I mean, we put a lot of pictures of the tokens and we put the two maps that you can show, which is sort of the world map and Rumplank, because that's where you start off. But I don't really want to put in anything else. I mean, that's sort of the whole issue with those. So any adventure path, it's like, how do you show off the adventure path without spoiling it? I mean, even the description could be a spoiler. So it's really tough, and I still don't know the answer to that. I almost, if anything, I don't know. If anyone has any ideas or if they've seen someone else do it well for Foundry on their Foundry page, let me know because I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, there is a free player's guide, by the way, that you can download off Battlezoo, and that has everything. It has, and there's a free. Actually, I forgot to say, the first chapter is for free, so you can download the first chapter, and it's self-contained. It's not in Foundry; it's just as a PDF. It has four pre-made characters, and they're the four iconics. It has the Path Builder JSON. It has the adventure itself, and it has the player's guides. And the player's guide's actually built into the module too, by the way. Yeah, that's like the first map, and it's already spoiler. Like, how do I show
Yeah.
that? It's like,
So I mean, to sort of answer the question, what's the quality compared to Abomination Vaults? I mean, I'll say it's different because the maps were made for different purposes and different intents. I will say that the style and the theme of all the maps in the entire book, that at least that I've looked at, are such that it's a different experience than Abomination Vaults, but the quality is equally, what you'd expect, not from the Paizo maps, but from the ones made specifically for the Foundry module. So I mean, you're
yeah,
getting all of that. There is no cutting corners. It's just, you can see sort of the map up on the screen, that it's also designed to meet the theme of how the book is, whereas Abomination Vaults was just a map. And an Abominations Vault map you could just pull out of the module, use it in another adventure in a totally different context. This one you don't have that option, but I also don't know how many people would do that sort of thing.
it's very
Yeah,
different. I mean, yeah.
but they're
I mean,
gorgeous.
if you go to chap, you go to part two, I can show you a map that people. That's pretty more impressive. Not more impressive, but one of the more. Go to chapter 8. Down. There we go. Sunken Temple. The last one. Yep. Like that is the temple, and you start at the top, and then you go down through the temple. It's underwater, and then and there's different lights and effects, and then there's the dragon, and then that thing, and you're like, oh, I can fight it, and then it literally starts running through the planks. Um, and then it actually then starts running through the walls. So there's a whole bunch of crazy things. But yeah, you can see it's like it's different than Abomination Vaults. But there's a lot of maps. Way too many maps. But even look on the edges, you like because Blondo really goes overboard with these maps. Actually, if you go to part one, I'll show you another one. Like I mean, like he puts in all these little things. It's just crazy. Go to chapter 4. And yeah, pop. Here we go. Like that's Poppy's proving grounds, and like if you even look on the edges, like you see all he puts all these symbols, and he just fills up the maps with just cool things.
They're very
It's
much
hard
like
to see.
maps, which sort of fits the theme. You start off by going to find a map, and so that all of the
Yeah,
maps are stylistically uh, like that, like a map that someone would draw out. It just really fits.
I don't know what he means by what does the GM screen look like, and the player's perspectives. I'm not sure
Oh,
what they mean.
I'm looking at it as a GM, but if you want to see, I guess I can drop in.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't think Kyra has any light, does she?
You need light.
No, she can cast light. Give me a sec.
Yeah, there. That's not a good map because it's literally a temple that no longer has been used. There you go.
So I mean,
So
that's
that's
what it
like
would
your
look like for a player coming in.
that's like the arena, and that's like the training room.
So keep in mind, I'm still seeing the text because I'm a GM, regardless of the fact that I've got a player selected.
And that's the danger room. If you're X-Men fan, it's like 3 traps in a row. You got to get across it.
So I mean, that would give you an idea of what a player can
Yeah,
kind of
this
see.
was heavily play tested, and we update these things all the time. So like if you said like like there was an issue getting through one of the doors, so we redid it. Like people were like, oh, we're having trouble getting through this door. So we made sure like all the walls worked correctly, and I didn't go too crazy with the lighting. Like we put in some, but we didn't go nuts because some people were complaining about speed, especially with slower computers. If you put too many lights on, that's really your GPU and how you set up your graphics card. So we did a balance, and you could always put in more. Trust me. Do you need to refer to the journal for room or location descriptions? Well, if you click, each room has
Yeah, you
Yeah,
just have to
journal
turn them on.
entry. Yeah.
It's same as pretty much every other module.
Yeah. I mean, we linked everything.
Yeah, I just had the display notes turned off. Um,
Yeah, it's
but
all there.
it was just to show things off without having too many icons cluttering things up.
Yeah, we have pretty much, again, we play tested this pretty heavily with a lot of people to make sure that it would work really well for GMs and players. And again, I've been playing online for I think 12, 13 years. So I have a lot of experience with VTTs and it's how we play. In fact, that's all I play. I probably played in person less than 10 times in the last 10 years. Like I just don't do it anymore. So this is how I play. So as someone who plays once or twice a week, every week using a VTT, I make sure, and I'm always the GM, I make sure I made it as easy as possible for someone like me. So everything you need is right there. You don't have to fumble around. And I made it so it's as fast as possible. I don't want to have, you know, any fumbling. So
Is
yeah,
Joel
you
done
do have
differently
to.
to update? No, there's only one way to update Foundry Adventures. There may be
Yeah.
something cool coming with the new Kingmaker Part 2. They're going to try really really hard on the back end to make it so that you can add Part 2 without or update to bring in Part 2 without destroying all of your exploration in Part 1, but it's a really really hard thing to programmatically do.
Yeah, you do. So Infamous Sky, I worked on this with Infamous Sky. Infamous Sky did almost all the implementation. I did the CSS and I helped him with a lot of the journals and just the layouts. He and I worked together on this quite a bit, and obviously Tinkle and some of the other members were helping out as well. But yeah, we tried to make sure that the Foundry module was something that people will buy and use and get a lot out of it, as opposed to like, oh, here's some maps and here's the monsters, have fun. It's like, no, we put as much as we can in here, so uh, that it's like really easy to use. And it doesn't hurt that like the people who work on our modules are the same ones who work on Foundry, so they're always like, oh, we're gonna put in this cool edition, but you can't release it for 2 more weeks because it's not released yet for the public. I'm like, great, thanks guys. Oh, even that, like if you click like those little encounter boxes, like you can click on the token, like on that guy there,
Yeah.
or click even on the picture too,
Which, sorry?
on the pirate on the left.
Yeah.
No, not on the button. You can click on the picture. Yeah, there you go. So you could drag that on if you want. So we're like, we try to make it as easy as possible and as many links as possible.
So but for the macros, yep, there's some of them. They're all built in. Um,
You don't need that many macros. We actually don't
oh,
have that many, so wasn't necessary.
but yeah, so you've got the common theming. It's very similar to what the original like beginner box ones that Foundry made, obviously with a little bit of different styling, but same sort of. If you've used one of the Foundry modules already, there's nothing that should be too different.
Yeah, it's somewhat similar to the beginner's box, but we redid the layout and the style. But I did like how that was done, and it has everything you need there. Because sometimes you were like that's a longer encounter, but this way it's easy to see the sidebars versus the encounter. We have one for treasure. We have one for hazards. So it's easy to tell. We have different coloration, so you can quickly tell if you're scanning it. So. And believe it or not, I'm updating the layout. So as good as that layout looks, it's going to be better. I'm actually redoing because as I said, some of the fonts, I think they're good. I think they're a little clunky. I'm actually going to make them a little smaller to make them a little bit easier to read. Um, that's the problem when you design these things, and I'm sure I'll update it again because I'll never stop. I'm like, oh wait, now it looks better this way. Like you
Yeah.
see at the top, like it cuts off the top there. Like that one, it's fine, but I'm gonna make it.
So like for room descriptions, here you go. It's pretty obvious what the room description is. It's right there. It's very very distinct.
Yeah, I didn't make it so you can click and put it in. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people use it. I ask people, they're like, just read it. I don't want to do that. And if you really want, you copy paste it in. So little things
I,
like that. It's not like a lot of work to do, so we just didn't bother. That was
we
fine.
ended up making that for the most recent special. Paizo let us put together a free module for any GM who was running it, and there the read ahead text is quite useful because then you could have the audio that they pre-recorded of the people reading it, so someone
Oh
could watch
wow,
and listen.
that's
Anything that you'd
crazy. I didn't do that.
no. Well, it all happened because at Gen Con the stream for the Starfinder special the day before went down, and so nobody got to hear any of the audio unless they were physically present. So morning of, I asked, and Alex Spidel provided all of the audio files, which I then had to compact together because it was like 13 different pieces that would be individually played because it was for a PowerPoint. And then we built all the text in, uploaded it to, yeah, Ian and I threw it together in about a day. Well, not even. I guess it was 4 hours before the special, pushed out an update, and then, yeah, click and read ahead. And it really helped with the house GM stuff because then you could just push it to the players and then forget about it.
So, by the way, for the descriptions, this is a little thing, but it drives me crazy as a GM when I'm reading a description and then it's like, oh, you see this in here and you see this in there, and then it has something in the description that you're not supposed to read out loud, and you're like, ugh, why does it say that in the description? Like it happens all the time, and it drives me crazy. So every one of these description texts are completely safe. And something else is that they will often put like the description text at the top, and then they'll put the secrets at the very bottom. So you're reading the description, you're running them through the room, and then it says, oh, and by the way, when they open up the door, this happens. And they're already halfway through the room. And you're like, oh, why did they put it at the end? I actually told all the writers because they kept doing that because they were all Paizo writers. I'm like, stop doing that. And I'm like, they're like, huh. I was like, yeah, put it the other way around. I don't know why you always put the secrets at the bottom of the room text. Put it at the top so we have the description, the secrets, and then what happens. Why do you put it at the bottom? It drives me crazy.
Yeah,
So
let them
that
GM
has
for an investigator.
I do it so all of our everything in the adventure is written like that. So you can read it and then right away it tells you things you need to know as a GM, and then it goes into what's in the room. But you can see where I'm coming from. Like we really thought this out. You know, I'm not gonna pat myself in the back. I'm pat myself back. Like we really made sure this was designed for GMs by GMs. Not that I don't think the others are, but I don't think they ever think of these things because, to be fair, they're rushing. They got to get these things out very quickly. You know how hard it is to put out those 100-page adventures every month? It's insane. It requires a huge amount of effort. Okay, and they barely have time to get the thing done, let alone to worry about how it's written out. But this took me a year and a half, and quite frankly, while we're waiting for the maps, I had a lot of time to play test it and go through it and fine tune it and tweak it. And so we made sure, and we had a lot of people play test it. And so they would tell us, move this here, put this here, change this description. So that's something else. So not a lot of these adventures are ever play tested, but this one was. So
I'll say it has definitely earned a place as a jewel in my collection. So
you get it. Oh yeah, right. The room has a table in the northwest corner. You can see the dried remains of the evil doppelganger that is hiding in the room. It's like, why is that in the description of the room? Don't put that there. It happens all the time. It's so annoying. That will never
well,
happen in this adventure. I promise you.
I imagine it's the exact same. Like one of the things that frustrated me when I ran Abomination Vaults, if you look at the standard Paizo map, it's like, yeah, in this room is this mechanical contraption that would bore into someone's skull. There's dried blood caked on the floor. And you look at the Paizo map, it's just a block with like 12 gray squares, nothing in it. I'm just
Well,
really,
that's that's
but
the thing. That's actually why I think they stopped using Blando, because Blando, if you look at our maps, I mean, he puts way too much stuff in there. And we actually went backwards. So this is what happened when I worked with him. I would either add more to the description of the room based on the map, or I had to tell him because like one of the descriptions, one of the rooms is there's supposed to be like blood and like like a cult symbol on the floor because they were performing some satanic ritual something, and he didn't do it. So I'm like, no, go back, add it. I wanted to literally add it to the map. Oh, and something else we do in these maps is that we have the roofs. So if you go to a village and the village to the players looks like a village, and all the villages have all the roofs are on top of all the houses. So there might be 10 houses. Now, 4 of them are the ones you actually want to go and investigate, and that's where stuff happens. So we have it that once they get into the houses, you can take off the roofs, and then you start doing the action. So even when the PCs go into the map, they don't know where the stuff is going to happen until they start investigating. Little things like that. Like we have lots of layers, so that there's another one where they're rescuing people from a fire, and there's all these huts, and you don't know which one to go into. So there you go. Yep. Well, disposable henchman, you can use the discount code if you want to buy it. So
Yeah, if you're definitely gonna be buying it, 10% off.
yeah, but you can see like all these little things, and this is why I'm never going to do it again because seriously, I estimated we spent probably easily 10,000 hours making this adventure between all the writing, the design, the artistry. Um, Probably more than 10,000. I mean, that's being generous. I'm not even including like the printing. I'm not even including the play testing. If you added like all the printing, all the play testing, everything that was done, like everything, it's probably like 15,000 hours, which is why I will never do one of these adventures again. Because I was like, how hard can it be? But I did it. It's done. We have one. I can always say for the rest of the time that we have this. Look at the size of this monster book. It's got the 3 bookmarks.
Yeah.
I don't know if people will use.
Oh.
People love this book. I mean, I guess people still like books, but
Oh, my books are falling over in the background. But yeah, like I said, I was very excited when this came in the mail. I think the first thing I did was take pictures and send them to you.
it's so funny. Don't say we need 11 to 20 adventure next. Here's the joke: is I actually wrote and have the outlines for 2 more adventures of this size and magnitude, but I don't think I'll ever do them. Or if I do them, I'll have someone else do them for me because it's like I have them written out. But I actually I wrote the outline, and the outline was I think like 35,000 words that I sent to the writers, and they're like, Steve, it's like we usually get outlines. They're like 2,000 words. I was like, well, this is not other adventures. You're gonna make sure this is a very complex adventure, and I need you to make sure you. But it was just the general strokes. Like they still figured out like 90% of these adventures was written by them. Like I didn't come up with like there's a party in Rumplang. Sorry, party in Rumplang. I didn't come up with what they were doing at the party. They just came up with the ideas. I just said let's just have party, and there's lots of different things they do, and they're like okay, and then they came up with everything. So I just give them the general broad strokes, and they came up with the details. So
Okay, well, I guess with that, I'd like to thank you a ton for your time. It's been amazing, insightful, informative, and I think for anyone who's running the adventures, probably invaluable. It was really neat to see everything that has been put into all of this, and just understand the sheer magnitude of work that sort of went into something that's has this high of, I guess, what I'd call production values. And it feels kind of bad to say that because it's more than just the value of what you get in the module. It's literally the whole big book wherever I stuck it. Like it's just crazy that there's that much in it. So on behalf of the community, thank you very much for this, and I hope it gets a lot of sales and a lot of plays.
yeah, well, we're still doing the 5e version, so it's not done yet. The 5e
um,
version's not so bad because all we're doing is taking the skeleton of the Pathfinder version and laying it over. So that's going to be a lot easier, I think. So it's like take what we did, just change it. So
yeah, so available for Foundry. There's the Dragon Ancestries, the Year of Monsters, upcoming the Year of Legends, the original Battlezoo Bestiary, as well as the Strange and Unusual Bestiary, the character guide for Jewels of the Indigo Isle and the Indigo Isle Adventures itself, as well as the free dungeon ancestry that you can download right now if you want to play as a dungeon.
yeah, actually, the character guide was just removed because the world of Battlezoo Indigo Isles is triple the size and replaces it. It's bigger and has more. And it's designed to be used for PCs. It's completely safe. It has no spoilers, and it can be used by PCs or GMs, and was very specifically designed to be used for both. The character guide I felt was fine, and it was it had some. It was designed for specifically PCs, but the world of Battlezoo Indigo Isles has way more. And if Tico ever finishes it, which he's working on right now, yeah, he wrote in there. Yeah, and Willem's Ghost is an excellent NPC. There is a dragon who wanted to design and build the perfect city, and he didn't, and it drove him mad, and he died. And the ghost of the town, it's a dragon, still wanders and won't stop endlessly talking about how wonderful his city is. And he's always like going up to PCs and telling them like, "Oh my God, did you see this over here? I've been working so hard on this," and I don't even think he knows he's dead. So you can add that to your game if you want.
And Ian says that he's finished. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, we had to link all 100 NPCs, and I presume that took him a little while. So, all right, well, send me the module. I'll take a look. Now it's QA time. That's right. I'll take a look at the module. I guess I'll work on more. I actually been updating the CSS, so I'll add a little more CSS to it once he sends me the module.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you again for your time, and to everyone
Sure.
out there, we will we'll certainly see you shortly. I don't think 5.6 was a huge one, but we've got some cool stuff coming in 5.7. So stay tuned, and we'll have a new update stream shortly.
It never ends.
It doesn't. Bye, everyone.
Bye.